Boy, new software. What do you think?
I'm not sure yet, but
You're not sure yet. For the audience, all right, we're trying something new. Kayla is, I, 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 yeah, I guess I could say this. I think you're somewhat of a perfectionist. You want it done right. You want it done well. If it's supposed to be done a certain way, you want it done that way, right? Just the way you program. It's the way you live your life. It's the way you train. And so when we started this little podcast, we were doing it on Zoom. We've got a certain look that we would like that we can't get through Zoom. Just so we've got this software we're working with that allows us to record. And the first time we did it, I looked fuzzy, which is probably a good thing. But when it actually records, it's clear. And that bothered Kayla. So I got to ask you, am I so far clear?
you're clear. And I'm not
Oh,
sure if
wow.
it's the software or my new computer. I don't know, but it works, so I don't care.
You got a new computer?
Yes, I did. It's the
Does it mean
first time I've had a desk.
that 1980 Wang computer is gone?
Yeah, well, I still have my laptop, but I've been existing on the laptop for years now. Same laptop since we opened the gym, and it's been running a little bit slower, and I notice I can't do certain things on it. So I have a iMac desktop now. It's the first time I've had a desktop, I think, since like middle school.
So what was it like spending the money?
I
What was it
hated
like?
every
I
I
want to
had the
know. How
worst
much
buyer's
anxiety was
remorse.
created?
No, I went to Best Buy I first went to the Apple store like 2 weeks ago, and I was like, I'm not ready. And then I went to Best Buy 2 different times, and I'm like, okay, well, I just need to do it. So I did it, and here we are.
It's nice. It's all it's good. It's got capabilities, and especially a desktop, over a laptop. There's certain things it does better, but we don't have the mobility or the portability of it. But you spend a little bit more time in your office than you have in the past, right? So it's a good investment. It's a good investment, just like, it's an investment to train, right? It's an investment in our bodies to train. And we typically we always we go from topic to topic, and you're really good at choosing topics, and then I'll pick a topic and you'll look at me and go, well, what's that going to be about? I mean, who's going to listen to that? Or I'll get on these philosophical kind of journeys, and you'll go, come on, this is just bring us back to something that's concrete that we can actually talk about. So I
I kind of felt like this topic was you want me to explain to you how to train for your triathlon.
well,
That's
uh,
what I gathered from this is you want help with your triathlon training, so you're going to have me break it down for you.
well, I, well, I need help definitely. I mean, I always need help, and your guidance is I can't get better than that. So I didn't quite think of it like that. I really didn't. But now I'm going to be taking notes myself
There you
during this.
go.
Oh, I just got to pause since we're talking about training and we're talking about. I think I'm gonna. I think I'm gonna go out and buy one of those wrestling wetsuits. Okay, those wrestling suits that you put on, and then you just get on a bike or get in a sauna and sit there for
And
24
dehydrate
hours
yourself.
and dehydrate. So when I go to that weigh-in for the boxing match or the cage match, and I strip down to my underwear and I get on that scale, I don't have to part with $200.
Yeah, well, I have all the shoes in my cart saved for you that I've been looking at. I'm almost there. Got a couple pounds to go, couple weeks to go. So it's
We got a
right
couple
right
weeks.
on right on track.
My couple is coupled. How's that? My coupled is coupled. But all right, so today's topic, let's move on. All right. Let's move on. Today's topic is, train your heart like you train your muscles, right? We train our muscles three different ways and or number of different ways, but we sometimes train for power, sometimes train for strength, sometimes train for endurance. Our heart is a muscle. And if I were to ask you if people were to track things, it's probably reasonable to think there's a lot of people out there that are tracking their steps. They track their steps, and it kind of gives them an idea of where they are fitness wise or how they can improve their fitness. Track their calories, maybe they're tracking their macros. If I were to ask you this, Kayla, does the average person track their, okay, big word, cardiorespiratory fitness or the strength of their heart? Do people track that?
No, I don't believe so. I think it's more of a feeling that they go off of versus tracking. It's very hard to
I
actually
understand
track
that.
it, but yeah, I don't think if you talk to someone about their fitness metrics, their VO2 max is going to be a first thing that they say.
No, I imagine it's not. I do imagine it's not. But how well do the heart and the lungs and the muscles, process that oxygen? How well does it do that? So if I were to say to the average crowd that's out there that might be sitting there going, my coaches Chloe and Kurt and Kayla, they program. I trust them. I'm just going to do what they tell me to do. Let me ask you something, Kayla. If you say, we had your coach on last week. Stacy was on last week, and she's asking you to do things in an effort to improve your business acumen, uh, your business smarts. There we go. In the way you run a business, but also just the thoughts that you process within that business. And she asks you to do things. You ever wonder why you're doing some of the things?
Yeah, I always wonder why. And often I will ask questions around it. But I think she, in that sense, she possesses knowledge and confidence and experience in it. So that's what sometimes I do just trust her, as I feel like our clients do with us. I always say I never give a client something that I haven't done myself in the past. So I think there's some credibility that comes with that, knowing that whatever I'm giving, I have done at some point in my life.
And I agree. I'm the same way. I mean, I follow your lead on a lot of things. I don't ask a lot of questions. I trust your knowledge. I trust your background, and I've seen the results with other people, and so I do trust. But there's in the back of my mind, I'm still sitting there. Well, why am I doing this? It's because I think, at least for me, if I know why I'm doing it, it helps me through the process. It helps me understand the process. Would you agree? I mean, that just at least knowing a little bit about why, and maybe that's why you ask the questions, so that you've got some clarification. So as you're going through this, you have a better understanding of why you're doing it. Would that make sense? Yeah. So so if we have some people out there that, just, well, what are we talking about? We're going to talk about the heart, but what if I told you that the Cleveland Clinic did a study of 120,000 people and found that low cardiorespiratory fitness has a higher mortality risk than diabetes, than hypertension, and even cancer? How would you respond to that? Would that make sense to you? Was it
That
something you
makes
know?
sense to me. It would make
Yeah.
sense to me. And I'd also say it would help prevent all those other things that you just said.
Exactly, but exactly. So when someone's sitting out there, so why are we gonna talk about aerobic power, aerobic endurance, or all right, or aerobic capacity? What is that? And how does that fit into my workout? And how is it helping me? And should I guess so that's what we're gonna discuss today. The three different types of kind of characteristics to aerobic fitness and in cardio health. So aerobic power, aerobic capacity, and aerobic endurance. Those three things. And how does that fit into my workout? Should I be concerned about that? Is it something I need? Should I be asking my coach, is this something I need? And how does it fit to helping me kind of live longer? Because if we can help fight those other things, hypertension, cancer, those types of things, we're going to live longer and we're going to have a better quality life. So so if I were to ask you, if somebody were thinking about cardio, what do you think someone just, if they were, I'm thinking about cardio, I'm thinking about doing cardio, what do you think that means to them?
Well, I mean, I always ask this question in our consults is I ask them, how's your aerobic system? How's your cardiovascular fitness? And most people usually go to something very simple. And it's like, well, I get tired walking up the stairs or I can run. It's like, I could go for a run, but I don't think that they think that it's just running or they think it's doing group fitness classes or they think they can keep moving over a period of time, which maybe it is that, but there's a lot more in there depending on the level of the person. I think to answer the question, you have to understand all three of them to really say if you can always tell a little bit more knowledgeable client because they'll say things like, well, I really struggle with short bursts of things, or I struggle when I'm out on a long hike for 6 hours, or, or some people say, I struggle walking up the stairs, basic daily tasks, right? So some people are a little bit more dialed into where their struggle points are. Some people just think it's like black and white.
Yeah. So as we look at the 3 different things, you can almost I like to for me, I need to simplify it. Okay, I think of a car. I think of, what is this? And our body is okay, it's our vehicle and our engine, okay, is our heart. And we've got the engine size and we've got the horsepower and then we've got fuel efficiency. I mean, if you break it down like that. Let's start to help our audience kind of understand, aerobic capacity. What is that? What is that? Is that where that VO2 max comes in, the aerobic capacity? Is that
No.
no, that's okay, go ahead.
So aerobic capacity is, I would label it like you said, it's the, if you were talking about a car, I guess, because that's the topic you're on, is like the
Okay.
size of the engine. It's like your base, it's your foundation to your aerobic system. And so it's your capabilities to do things, like just very simply put, it's your base capability. It's your capacity to handle a aerobic load.
Okay. So we do a 10-minute test on the assault bike when someone starts with us. What does that translate into aerobic capacity or where do you think that might go?
I think that we can tell we can get their baseline through the 10-minute test. I do not think that the 10-minute test, if you do it correctly, I think there's a few nuances in here for the
Okay.
10-minute test.
Okay.
Because overarching, overarching, I think the 10-minute test tests all three. But number one, if you do the test correctly, it should test your aerobic power because it is a power output reaching your ceiling, which I'm sure we're going to get into that, but it is pushing that threshold. It's reaching your aerobic ceiling, which, like you said, is, I think you said horsepower. That's the power side of it. But if we have a new client coming into the gym, right, they don't know that yet. Like somebody who hasn't done fitness in 20 years, they aren't pushing to test their maximum aerobic power right now. But we can get a good baseline of their aerobic capacity based on the way they do the test, the way that they handle the test, the way that their numbers show on the test, the way that their body feels in the test. So I think you can get a good gauge of aerobic capacity with like a new client. But overall, like while we retest and do it, if you truly do the test as it should be, it would test power with some endurance because it is a sustained period of time.
Yeah. So we said tracking. I started this out by saying, a lot of people can track their calories and track their steps, and it's hard. It's hard to track. Say okay, the VO2 max or their capacity is there a way? Well, let me just ask you. Say resting heart rate or heart rate, those types of things. Does some of that correlate to their aerobic capacity? Like for instance, like a runner. I know you're training some people right now for races for triathlons. Does that athlete is this how an athlete, I guess, improves their resting heart rate or lowers their resting heart rate? Is that how somebody would do that? Or be able to track if I've got a low resting heart rate, does that correlate to a big engine, a good capacity?
Yeah. So are you asking about like VO2 max correlation, or are you asking about resting heart rate
Resting
correlation?
heart rate. Resting heart rate.
Yeah, I don't think, I think overall a lower resting heart rate usually means better cardiovascular fitness because it pertains directly to the heart. And usually people with a higher resting heart rate aren't as capable from an aerobic standpoint. But I think a lot of people, I will go into VO2 max, but I feel
Okay.
like a lot of people try to correlate a high VO2 max with a higher you said a bigger engine, which, yeah, you
Okay.
could have a bigger engine, but that doesn't mean you necessarily have the endurance piece of it. Because there are some people that have a higher VO2 max, but they can't sustain that
Mm,
over like a long period of time, or maybe they have a higher power output that they can't sustain, or maybe they can sustain over a long period of time, but they're at lower thresholds. Like I don't think that you can have a direct correlation, like
okay.
saying, I am a better aerobic athlete because I strictly have a higher VO2 max. I think most of the time, yes, but it's not a end all question.
So if you were training for capacity, if you were training for that, how would you program one of your clients if that was their goal or their need, or they wanted to improve their capacity? What types of aerobic exercising would you program for that individual?
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's where, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of like the hype around zone 2 right now, but capacity, like I said, is the base of your aerobic system. So you have to be able to do lower steady state aerobic work over a longer duration of time to build a base from it. So
I think that's important. Well, and what I mean by important is you said you're not a big fan of the hype around zone 2. What is zone 2? For someone sitting out there, what does it mean to be in zone 2 training?
So, like, your heart rate would say, I mean, there's all kinds of
Depends
studies,
on the
but some
individual.
individual, but generally speaking, like 120 to 150 average. So, but most people, we just gauge it off of their conversation pace. So, you should be, if you're doing zone 2 work, it's a conversation. You should be able to have a conversation while you're doing it, but still feeling the heart pumping. So you can usually just feel zone 2 work. Like if you can't carry a conversation while you're doing it, then it's not zone 2. If it's just a simple walk, it's also probably not zone 2 because your heart's not pumping enough to create that. So yeah, I would say it's like slower, steady work that still, if we're talking just very basic, you can feel your heart beating, you're starting to breathe hard, you are sweating, you're reaching that limit of like, I might not be able to carry a conversation, that you're reaching the upper limit of it. That's how we would view it. But if you check your heart rate, usually any wearable right now will show you which zone you're in, and
Mhm.
somewhere usually between, depending on the person, but between like 120 and 150 is usually about it.
So, again, I know a lot of the answers to these questions, but our audience does not know a lot of the answers. So I'm not as stupid as I sound when I ask Kayla these questions. Just want to put
You're
that
just
out there now.
trying to take these notes to trade for your race.
Well, they're in the back of my head. But so as you look at it, so again, somebody thinks cardio. Okay, I got to be on a bike. I got to be on a rower. I got to run. I got, is that the only way to reach zone 2, kind of training, or any zone? Is it
I
always
mean,
got to be on equipment? I mean,
well, I mean, you don't have to have equipment to run, but so that's why, just to say like equipment, the bike test, the 10-minute bike test, like I know this was something that we had talked about or you gave me notes on, but the reason why we do the bike test to test every individual is because there's less room for mechanical errors in that. So if you get a person with bad joints or a bad form or previous injury and you tell them to go out, they could run like a mile and a half, 2-mile test and get pretty much the same effect as they would get from the 10-minute bike test, but the mechanical breakdown chances are higher. So that's why we don't use like a run test. We just use the bike because 90% of people can sit on the bike and pedal and use their arms the same time without mechanical breakdown or form breakdowns. Same thing is for me, like when I had my triathlon coach, is we did swim tests too, but I could never reach a actual like power output swimming because my form would break down before I got there. So while I feel exhausted, my heart rate is only like 115 because it's more of a mechanical breakdown. So that's the reason why when we do the test on the bike, it's the easiest way to test it because you don't have to worry about any other breakdown. You can truly see where the breakdown is with the person.
Yeah. So capacity. That's capacity. Let's talk about aerobic power for a little bit. And does that come into play, with even some of the people you're training for the races and stuff? Power, endurance. I mean, how does all I'd love to really learn how you are so I can do better in my triathlon. How you are focusing their attention to what's going to help them perform in that race. But let's talk about power. Power is different than capacity, right? How would you describe aerobic power? What are we doing there?
So you are reaching your ceiling of output. So these look like hard bouts of effort. And I think that, this is where VO2 max comes in. Like if you do a hard interval, like that's where your VO2 max can adjust in there. But when we think about it, these are like sprints. These are 85 to 90% maximum effort. I do not feel like a lot of our people have their aerobic capacity isn't high enough in order to truly train aerobic power. But I do think if you are experienced and your training age is a little bit higher and you have the knowledge and you know your body a little bit better, that's where you can really test your aerobic power. And I think if you do the bike test, our 10-minute bike test correctly, that's what you're truly testing is your power. And I would say for me personally, this is my like weakest point in the aerobic system is the power output because I have a hard time like pushing that ceiling. I think I have a broad capacity. I think I have a endurance system, but I think my weakness is this section. So people that know me and has seen me train, they can probably tell that. We used to do back in the original OPEX days, we used to test 500-meter row repeats. And you could always tell, this was a really good test to tell aerobic power. So I remember I had to compete against, he was like a power lifter. And so, he gets on the rower and I guess it was a minute row. I can't remember. But anyways, he's like 70 meters in front of me on the first one, just because he had so much power, could really push the threshold. But then you have to repeat it over 4 sets. And that's where like the endurance and capacity comes in, because while he had the power to hammer down, he didn't have the sustainability to sustain it over time. So you see this a lot with like explosive athletes that are sprinters or something that's using fast twitch muscles. They really have the capacity to push the limits, but maybe they don't have it to sustain it over time.
You make that comment, and I don't disagree at all. But it's like you watch these Olympic athletes. I mean, these are just the ultimate of athletes, right? And you watch a mile run right now, and 20 years ago, that mile run looked like our sprinters. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Today, it looks, they've got not only do they have power, endurance, capacity. I mean, they got it all. It's like they're like crazy, trained, and they're actually look like they're sprinting, and then but they've got that endurance as well. How would where would power? Who would benefit from focusing on a power workout?
Like gen pop people or like athletes or
Well, anybody. I mean, if
yeah.
somebody, yeah.
Well, I think that,
Well,
if you
let me ask you. I'll go kind of towards maybe not towards the end, but we haven't discussed all three. But isn't there a place for all three of these? Maybe not to
yeah,
the elite athlete capability, but isn't there a place for all three of these things in a Gen Pop workout?
yeah. And I kind of, in the resistance training, people want to have a broad variety of exercises. They want to be well-rounded. They want to squat, push, pull, bend, all the things. Whereas like in the aerobic system, people tend to not hone in on it as much, but it's the same thing. Like if you want to be a true, well-rounded individual, you don't even have to say athlete, you have to have all three. The only problem is you maybe don't recognize when you use them in life the most. Like you might be thinking, I'm never going to use aerobic power. Well, if you have to chase after your kid real fast and because they're running out into the middle of the street, you're going to have that turn on power, know how to like reach a
That
threshold.
burst.
You have to have that burst and be able to recover from it. if you are going to Disney and you're going to be walking 20 some thousand steps a day, you have to have one, the capacity to handle that, and you have to have the endurance to be able to sustain that over 8 hours in the day. So I think, or on the flip side, is we're talking about people that I train that are maybe having races come up. And you can tell where you struggle. So someone can say to me, I can go out and run 11-minute miles, no problem. But as soon as I bring that down, I can only run if I bring it down to a 9:30 mile, I can only sustain that for a half a mile. And it's like, okay, well, if you want to have a really good time in a race, then we can't, maybe the endurance is there because they can sustain it over time, but then maybe we need to push that power threshold. Maybe there's going to be hills, or maybe there's going to be sprints that they have to do in there. And if they can't reach that limit and recover from it, then I feel like they won't reach their maximum potential, even if it's just like a hometown K race. If you're
Yeah,
doing a race, everybody wants to do their best.
their
You're
best.
not doing people aren't just out doing stuff just to do it. Like, they want to do the best that they can do in there. So I think identifying where your struggle point is will help you know how to train it.
Sure. So how would you train power? What are some examples of how you would train power? I've heard this uh, this Norwegian 4x4. You heard of that?
Okay. I mean, I think I've heard of it. I don't
4
know
minutes
the
on and just all out 4 minutes, 4 minutes
4 minutes.
rest.
Yeah.
What are some other, maybe realistic things for our clients? I mean, if they wanted to improve their power, what are some of the exercises they could do?
Yeah. So any type of this is where the high intensity interval stuff would come in
Gotcha.
with equal or longer rest time so you recover. So, but they really have to know how to push the threshold and they keep it aerobic. So that's where the power side comes in is we're not pushing anaerobic to where it's not repeatable or recoverable. Is recoverable a word?
I like it.
The ability to recover. So we have to remember we're staying in the aerobic system. So we have to be able to repeat it to be aerobic. So if you're doing a hard bout of effort and then you take sufficient rest time, then you should be able to repeat that hard bout of effort the same time the next time. If you cannot, then the pacing is off or potentially you are turning something into anaerobic work, which that's not what we're talking about.
Mhm.
So to stay aerobic, it has to be repeatable. So most of our clients know the 10-minute bike test. So it's like if you're doing the 10-minute bike test and the goal is 10 minutes and, I watch a person like we've talked about 100 times. I don't give them any clues. Is like your job is to get on this bike and to finish 10 minutes on the bike. But I want you to go as hard as you can for 10 minutes. So examples of it are maybe somebody with high aerobic power comes out and they are guns a-blazing the first 10 minutes or the first 2 minutes and they get 50 calories in 2 minutes. And it's like after that, they're down
Yeah,
and they end
they
the
hit a
bike
wall.
test. They end the bike test with 100 calories. So they got 50 in 2 minutes and then they're only got 50 in the last 8 minutes because they
8, yeah.
they didn't they didn't have the endurance there to hold on to it. And so maybe someone like that, we would need to program longer sets to kind of hold on to that and teach them pacing and not come out too hot. Or there might be someone that, right, they're just, we see it all the time. They're like cruising on the bike. They're having a conversation. The end of 10 minutes, you say, how was that? And they say, well, that was not bad. And it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to push your power a little bit. Learn that threshold, learn your ceiling, learn your potential of what it feels like to actually push. But then maybe we do smaller bursts of that with maybe double the rest time. So maybe they're doing 1 minute intervals with 2 minutes of rest just to learn that pacing, recover fully, learn that pacing, recover fully, and then you just build that over time. The next thing you know, they can do the 10-minute test because they've just done 10 intervals of it at that pace, maybe cut down the rest time, and then they can do a 10-minute test at a higher power.
Yeah, I think back to when I did that, okay? I think I now, there definitely wasn't the power that pure athletes have when I when I did this 10-minute test a few years ago. But I will say when I got on there and I you set me up just the way you just set everybody else up. Just go, get the most you can, out of that 10 minutes. And I got to about the 5-minute mark, and I'm wondering, I always think back, how much of it was my mind telling me I couldn't put, endure the output, or was it actually, you know, my physical capability? Well, what was it? Because a couple months later, I did increase it. So I think, you helped me learn pacing. You helped me learn, how to kind of register what my body was telling me, that it really wasn't about to crash. You were okay. You could fight through this. Is there a bit of that too? That the mind is, kind of messing with us as we're on this bike test?
Yeah. And I mean, I don't I think it's both, and we can't numerically measure if your aerobic system actually got better. But if in my brain, if it's part mental and it's part physiological and you got better, then it doesn't matter.
Right. It doesn't matter.
But yeah, I mean, I do that a lot with my runners right now is like if you're running a half marathon. So say you're running a 5K because we have a lot more people running 5Ks than a half marathon, but you're running a 5K. You don't go out and just run 3.1 miles over and over and try to get faster, try to get faster. Like you are doing pacing work. Maybe you're doing pickups, you're doing stride work because you're either you're telling your brain, which I think you're doing, or you're telling your heart or you're telling your legs that you can push this pace and hold it. And you just did it. Maybe you do 3 or 4 mile repeats with a little bit of rest in between, but you're telling your brain, I just did this pace of a mile for 4 miles with a 1 minute rest in between. Then I should be able to sustain that over a 3 mile run, So it's like, it's both, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I just took notes, just so you know. I just took some notes on my 5K for my triathlon coming up in June. So, how do we train? Okay, let's go last one real quickly. Let's touch on endurance a little bit. We may have touched on, each of these throughout the conversation, but with a focus on capacity and then a focus on power. Let's focus on endurance a little bit. You've kind of described what it means, but clarify it a little bit more. What does endurance mean? If I've got aerobic endurance, how does that differ from power and capacity?
So you're able to like hold on longer. So it's like, and we don't think about it as like easy work, but you're reaching like suboptimal levels or higher thresholds, and you're able to hold on or sustain that output for a longer period of time or with quicker recovery. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, yeah, like I think you tried to make the analogy of a car. So like the endurance piece is the gas mileage. It's
The
how
fuel
far,
efficiency. Yeah.
yeah, like how far that engine will take you. And so, that's where a lot of people maybe get them confused is like aerobic endurance and aerobic capacity is like, well, capacity is like the base. So that's like what we're building to start with. But maybe once you start getting some power in there, it's then how long can you hold on to that power without burning out or without crashing? So I think a lot of people they they think I can go a long duration of time, and it's like, but can you keep pushing that threshold for a longer period of time? That's kind of what I view as endurance.
Yeah. I think it's a good conversation. I think it's, again, for me, I love understanding. The reason I read a lot of things and, get into maybe, self-help books, or you getting into these fitness books. I'm reading a book right now, on the comfort crisis and how all these modern conveniences has kind of robbed us from nature. It's robbed us from really understanding our body and knowing the limits that we have, that we can actually push, and we kind of pulled back from that. So understanding how the heart works, understanding how to develop different, how to develop the power if needed, how to develop that endurance capacity. Well, the average person might not want to get into the weeds, and they trust us to go into the weeds for them. I think it's at least interesting to learn a little bit more about how all that works together. So, takeaways. Takeaways from today's conversation. Do all 3? Does it depend? Does it depend how old I am? Does it depend, what my targets are or goals are? I mean, just an overall philosophy. Would the average individual benefit from training all 3 from time to time?
Yes, because
Okay.
I think why not? Like
Okay.
we're all capable, so let's if we're if we are interested in improving ourselves and we're interested in being the best and most resilient human being that we are, why not train all 3? And why not learn where maybe your downfall is and try to improve that? Or I think there's just a lot of uh, you gain a lot of knowledge and self-understanding if you can even point out or decipher where your downfall is or where your
Where you're lacking.
um yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. Because a lot of people, I don't believe a lot of people can do that. You can't ask the average person like, "Hey, where do you struggle in your aerobic system?" You know? I'm very confident in it and I'm like, my power lacks. Like I have like a very low aerobic power. And I know that and I can feel that and I can sense it when I'm in a workout. Like, don't give me a 3-minute workout because everybody will beat me. Now, you give me a 40-minute workout, that's my bread and butter. I can hang on there. So I think, just challenging people to dive in and be curious to maybe where you do struggle when you're in the gym. It's just simple things, if you are in there for an hour and you notice you are warming up and you're faster on the rower when you're warming up than you are at the end of the workout, like think about that. What's going on?
Yeah, I do. I use the word and I love the word. I love it. I just think we all need to be more of it. And that's just curious. We may not have all the answers, but just seeking just information, seeking answers, seeking more understanding. But that element of being curious really helps us do that. And yeah, and I like that. I mean, I like to. I would like to inspire the programs that I program for the clients that they are giving it some thought. What is he trying to do here? So when they come to consult, say, "Hey, remember when I did this? What were we after there? What were we trying to achieve there?" And now we can have better conversations, in our consults as well, and then help them get to where they need to be. So I get it. It's better to understand, but I also would just say this one, and I'll end where I started this whole thing. For that person, that the average client that comes into our gym, the average one, right? Probably not wanting to go take a deep dive into aerobic power and what it's all about. But if you look at, I'll just go back to the study, and that is 120,000 people were studied that had low cardio fitness. It was They had a higher risk of mortality than some of the 3 leading causes of death right now. So understanding that, working with your coach to develop these areas in your program, to develop them for yourselves, I think's important. I do. And I appreciate you, as always, kind of helping me understand it a little better and helping the audience understand it. And your knowledge it's like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if you've got a book in front of you. I don't know if you got a computer, if you're like Googling things, as I'm asking you questions, but it's crazy how you can just kind of just flow and go and just wherever I go, you seem to be able to have pretty good answers.
Thanks.
Awesome.
I mean, yeah, thanks. I'm not an expert on it, but I feel like I have a good understanding and definitely help people learn and adjust to what they need.
Yeah. All right. So I've got my notes. I know how to train better now. And I just got to figure out how to lose 7.5 pounds by March 31st. So it can at least be a push, like a tie.
Morgan said yesterday, I told him about he didn't know the like exact, he was like, he said, he should just bought the shoes for you at the beginning. He should know better than to go into a challenge with you.
Yeah.
It's good though. It's good. It's been good learning. It's been good learning for me because it's been a while since I actually not had to, but you know,
It's been good. it's been good for me and it as well in that it's just confirming, some of the, I don't wanna say it, just some of the, habits that I have that are supporting what I want to achieve and some of the habits that are working against it. And just my ability to, just kinda make better decisions. I think that's one thing that's helped me, and, I just have to make better decisions between now and the third.
Or not, and then I get my new shoes.
You get your new shoes. Alright. With
Okay.
that, let's call an end to this conversation today. I appreciate you. Appreciate all that you do for the clients, for the people, for OPEX, for your coaches. It's stimulating, it's encouraging. Your value is more than you will ever, I think, understand yourself. And I think our audience really benefits from it as well. So
Well, thank you.
yeah, absolutely. So we'll see you next week.
See you.